we have a responsibility to get the work to the streets.
MDOT presents the Extra Mile Podcast.
Highways, movement of goods, these are things that we rely on every day.
Got to have the ability to get their product to market.
As long as you're performing, we want to be behind you pushing.
Welcome into another edition of the Extra Mile Podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I'm MDOT Digital Media Manager Paul Catul. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Will Kraft. He handles government and constituent affairs here at the agency. And, you know, we're going Egg Bowl theme. Last week we were in Oxford to talk to Mayor Robin Tannehill. And this week we're in the beautiful city of Starkville to talk to Mayor Lynn Spruill. Mayor, we really appreciate you hosting us here in your great city.
Well, I appreciate being asked to be here. Robin is one of my favorite people, and so it's nice to know that y'all visited with her first, and I'll try to be kind to her. I hope she was kind to me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So you've got one of the coolest resumes, I think, out of anybody we've interviewed. Lots of different experiences. So can you kind of talk about that and then talk about why you decided to run for mayor of Starkville?
Sure. Well, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, I think, if the truth be told. But, you know, I grew up here, so I'm a Starkville native. I went to Mississippi State as well, you know, graduated from here with a BS, and then decided I wanted to go to law school or else go in the Navy. And so, you know, some things you can do at the time and some things you can delay. And going in the Navy was something I couldn't delay because it wouldn't happen for me again. So I chose that path. It's always nice to have a backup plan. But I chose that path, and I went in the Navy for 6 years and flew airplanes for them. And enjoyed that. It was an experimental program, which made it really interesting. They didn't have any accommodations for women at the time in the aviation program. Wow. And so that tells you how long ago it was. It was really, really long ago. Admiral Zumwalt, interestingly enough, was the admiral at the time, and he was trying to do new things and be flexible with the ideas and concepts of the military. And so he sought a program to allow women to fly. And so I went through that program and was very fortunate, got based in great places and flew fun airplanes and just had a wonderful time. And actually it was really important because it formed an opportunity to learn about public service. Sure. And so after that, when I left the Navy, I had a sort of a loss of that sense of serving a common good or a greater good. And so that was kind of how I got involved in government and politics. It was just trying to be a part of a community in a way that was positive and contributed in sort of a productive kind of way. So I did that, and for 6 years I was in the Navy. I left the Navy out of Norfolk, Virginia. I was served in the Philippines and Hawaii, and then went to Norfolk and served out the remainder of my tour there. And then I got hired. I wanted to be hired by the airline. And so again, I have to go back, 100 years. And way back then, you had to be 30, 31, 32, or they wouldn't hire you in an airline. Now, that didn't happen anymore because you've got the Age Discrimination Act. But at the time, that was not in effect. So you either got hired by an airline at a early age of 30, or you didn't get hired by them at all. And so in order to do that, I had to get out of the Navy and then work on getting hired by the airline. But unfortunately, they quit hiring about the time I got out. And so I flew for Atlantic Richfield Oil Company for 5 years. And that was kind of fun because I went to places like Dead Horse, Alaska, and, flew into the ranch of the guy who owned the CEO who owned the place out in New Mexico. And that was really interesting because it was cool. One way in and the same way back out again, which is through the mountains and over the woods and, through the trails. So it was fun flying, very exciting kind of flying. And then I was very grateful when Delta started back up again, and I got hired by Delta because I'm a Southern girl, and Delta's right here. They started in the Delta, and that's how they got their name. And so I was really excited to be a part of that community, and I flew there for 19 years, almost 20 years. Of course, during that time, we had 9/11. And so that changed dramatically how the airlines operated and how we operated as pilots. Sure. And so the airlines ended up taking bankruptcy. And so Delta was reaching that point, and so they offered an early retirement. And at that time also, you had to retire by the age of 60. And so I was approaching that, and the calculation at the time was a financial calculation. And so I decided that retirement was the option for that. So I retired from Delta late 2004, almost 2005, and moved back to Starkville, which is, again, where I was from and where I had business interests here. But the aviation field was my love, and, you know, it's still to this day, I see contrails, and I know pretty much which nav they're flying over and where they're headed. So it's
That's awesome.
one of those losses that you have. You know, you're so grateful to have had a chance to do it, but you also miss it because that was just a wonderful
Sure.
way to earn a living. So
That's really cool.
it was fun.
And just to highlight one point, I mean, you alluded to this, but you were the first woman in the history of the Navy to qualify as a carrier pilot. That's
Yes,
right.
I was.
That's awesome.
And
And then
Top Gun coming out now makes it fun,
Right?
to relive that.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And then even you talked about getting into the government. You know, this is actually your second time being a mayor, right?
It is. It is.
That's incredible.
My first time was in Addison, Texas.
That's right.
So I ended up being in Dallas, based with Delta there in Dallas, and you have in the Navy, and I'm a big proponent of the military, y'all. So
Sure.
from my perspective, you know, if I was king for a day, or king or queen, everybody would serve 2 years in the service
Okay.
in some kind of way. I mean, I truly believe that, either military service or some sort of governmental service. Because I really think it's a formative thing. It gives you that sense of participation in a larger community. But anyway, I was missing that when I found myself in Dallas and not knowing anyone. Also coming from a small town and being an only child, you know, no siblings and that sort of thing. So I got involved with some folks who were campaigning for election, and so. As happens to a lot of folks, when you get involved in a campaign, then you develop relationships,
Sure.
and the folks that won, my people, needed people to serve on a planning and zoning commission, and so that's kind of how it got started. I served for a couple of years on a planning and zoning commission, and if you want the really interesting down and dirty of it, the backstory, I was supposed to be reappointed to the planning and zoning commission on the night that they appointed me to fill out the term of a councilman who killed himself.
Oh, wow.
Because he had terminal cancer. He was an MD. He had terminal cancer, and he knew kind of the prognosis, and he chose to do what he chose to do, and they had to fill that seat. And so I was selected to fill that seat.
So then you moved into city council.
So I moved into the city council role instead of P&Z and served out the remainder of his term, and then I ran in my own right and served out that term. And then if you really want to get ironic and have some strange stories that go with it, I was the mayor pro tem.
Oh, wow.
And I had just signed up to run for re-election again as a city council member. And I was sitting in the city manager's office, and the city manager got a call from the police chief who said he'd just gotten a call from the mayor, who also took his own life.
Oh, my goodness.
It was during a really tough time. The SNL scandals and all kinds of things were going on.
Okay.
It was a tough time. And so I served out the remainder of his term as mayor. I was appointed mayor. Unlike Mississippi, you would have to hold a special election.
Right.
In Texas, you can choose either to hold a special election depending on the time remaining, or you can appoint someone to fill out that term. And so I filled out that term and then ran again for that seat. So
And
it was
then
a
got it.
confluence of really strange and odd and heartbreaking events, but you know, it sort of precipitated me into those roles that
It
I
is
hadn't
interesting.
anticipated.
That's very interesting, though, that chain of events that, you know, ultimately took, was totally out of your hands, you know, a lot of those
Life
things.
does strange things
That
to you.
is
You know,
interesting.
you either choose to, you know, and I hate to say take advantage of it, but it's kind of like you know, windows open, doors close, and
Sure.
you choose to go through them. So
That's awesome. Wow.
Fascinating career path.
it is, and it was certainly not a trajectory that I had imagined because I was just, you know, flying airplanes.
Sure. So, MDOT podcast, we want to touch on some MDOT projects that are either going on in the city or kind of on the docket in the future. So, yeah, do you have any information for us on that?
Oh, gosh. MDOT has been a wonderful partner with us. We are really so grateful. Dating way back, you know, Mike Taggart was the Northern District Commissioner prior to Commissioner Caldwell. And so we have enjoyed working with both of them and had multiple projects that have made a huge difference in the city of Starkville. One in particular was the Highway 12 project that we were working with them on. It was actually my predecessor, Mayor Wiseman, started that project, but I came in sort of in the middle of it and got labeled with it, if you will. It is still controversial to some of those folks who've lived here for a very long time because they hate the medians. You know, everybody wants to go cutting across And that was one of those things that you just, it's a safety issue. The reduction in fatalities and injuries and accidents was about like 30%, and then you just can't fight the numbers on that sort of thing. So it is so much better. It's actually more beautiful too, because one of the things we chose to do is, rather than having concrete medians, while we were in preparation for that, they were very kind to let us run irrigation under there and then plant. And so we planted trees that would work for medians in a high traffic area, and it really improves the look of Highway 12. It improves the look of Starkville. And I think beautification is incredibly important in who you are and how you present yourself to people who are coming into town. And people come in, as tourists, people come in as alumni, people come in to live, and your first impression is always the one that you want to be the best if you can. So MDOT's been wonderful for that. Highway 12 is that. Then we have the North Star Industrial Park, where MDOT partnered with us for the lead into the entry to that. We've got Highway 182, which y'all partnered with us on ages ago. You're currently helping us work through the build grant for Highway 182, which is to really improve it in ways that could increase pedestrian access, bicycling, again, beautification elements, and it's a huge economic development project. Yes. You worked with us on Russell Street. You're working with us on a TAP grant that's associated with Spring Street. We're partnering with MSU and the county on other projects that we've had before, Lynn Lane project, and there was I can't remember, the linkages project, and now we've got one that's going down 182 with the county, with the MSU, that we're partnering on in order to increase the pedestrian and bike path areas for the college town. And if pedestrian and biking is really a big deal, sure, particularly for a college town, alternative methods of transportation. And MDOT's been wonderful to work with us on that. And so we're really excited that continues to be a program that we can partner with y'all on, because it just makes a huge difference in our community. Quality of life is what draws people to a community to live and to stay and to feel like it's home. And that includes particularly a college town where the kids want to use those alternative transportation methods. And so, you've got not just the alumni and not just the staff, but you've got the kids. And if we don't attract them and make it a place where they want to be, then, the college town is not what it could be. So we think it's incredibly important, and MDOT has participated in ways that we cannot say enough thank yous for.
Well, we certainly appreciate that.
Well, it's just true.
And you, Dave, you just alluded to this. My next question here, kind of in your conversation right there. I mean, you're talking about build grants, you're talking about working with the city and the county, working with the university. There's so many facets, right, that come into the partnerships, and especially when you're talking about economic development, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just the level of work across, the MDOT projects. Probably none of these things happen without those partnerships, right? I mean, it takes the team effort.
Absolutely. We couldn't afford to do those projects, those TAP grants, those build grants, without that participation, because when you partner with it and the grant is an 80-20 match, and, a city, while the university, I think, has got a lot more money than we do, the city is certainly strained for our funding, and we want to be very cautious with our taxpayer dollars. So an 80-20 match means that we can take that 20 and split it with the university. So it ends up being a 10% match for us. Or if we split it with the county and the university, then you've got the three-way division of that 20%, which really makes a huge difference in whether or not you can afford something. And it then also makes a dramatic difference in how people feel about the areas that we've been able to do this in.
Sure. Yeah, when you kind of have that vote of support from those other counterparts, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So, in full disclosure, I went to Ole Miss and Oxford boy, but I've had
sit more this way than I do.
No, I've always had a great time in Starkville. Lots of friends here, and I've always enjoyed it. And over the years, I've noticed a lot of explosion of growth. Our producer Drew says that it changes every time he comes here. So, can you kind of talk about what it's taken to move things along in Starkville and accomplish some of your goals here?
Well, perseverance always helps.
Absolutely.
Money helps, but it also you have to really acknowledge what has made the difference. We've started looking at development and how we treat the Cotton District, for example, and mixed-use development, where you bring in the businesses as well as the residents, and you densify areas that are urban areas that create that opportunity to use, for example, the smart transportation bus that MSU has, and then our bike paths and our walking paths and that sort of thing. But the economic development really for us, we boomed or began that process when we had the winning season. the winning football season in 2013,
wow.
14 when Dak was, we were number one for what, 2 weeks in a row, which I don't know that state has ever been, certainly not for the football program. I mean, I grew up when we were expecting to lose, but just enjoying the moment, it's just true, and so now we expect to win, and we know what it feels like, and we want to do more of it. And so you've got this huge influx of alumni coming back, buying second homes. And another interesting facet that I have learned is that, contrary to when I was growing up, parents are now following children to college. I would have killed my parents if they followed me to college back then. But now it seems to be something that's, part of an expectation and part of what happens. So the parents will come in, they'll buy a second home. Sometimes the student will live in it, and sometimes not. Sometimes they'll have an apartment, and the parents will also have a condominium here. So we've seen a huge growth in that way. It's been really exciting, and it's allowed us to develop in ways that creates that additional restaurant and activities for events and that sort of thing. So we're really excited about it.
Amazing.
A lot goes into it. A little bit of a topic I know that you're very familiar with, but it's always interesting the different kind of places we're at. You guys have a dramatic game day traffic going on, right?
Yes, we do.
Just cars moving everywhere.
Yeah.
How much, do you know off the top of your head, and sorry for putting you on the spot, what that population change is on game day? I mean, I would
Obviously, it's an estimate, but it's like it goes from, the 25,000 plus 20,000 of the students to, another 20, 30,000 coming into town.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. And I'm a big Twitter fan, so, I'm on Twitter, and I'm getting all the tweets that are, blaming me for the traffic, blaming me for the signalization, and so I'm going, well, actually, the timing belongs to MDOT. The lights and that sort of thing belong to us, but the timing belongs to MDOT, and game day traffic belongs to all of us because, our guys, our police officers, bless their hearts, they're standing at those intersections and guiding that traffic, and those traffic plans and all of that goes with it it's a tough gig, but they've been really wonderful about it, and I think we've improved, and you improve. The more you do something, the better you get at it. But we've changed. The routes have changed, and we try to get that information out. So, you're just trying to make it the best you can, but patience is always a good thing.
That's right.
If you're there with 60,000 people, you really don't expect to leave and be home in 10 minutes.
No. And I think, a lot of times we're very fortunate here in Mississippi. I mean, when I grew up in Mendenhall, Simpson County there, I mean, pretty much anywhere that I needed to get within the county, I could get there in 5 or 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. But now we didn't have 3 or 4 times traffic explosion once a week, and I think a lot of times that gets lost on what that really looks like and how difficult it is to navigate. Like you just said, patience is the key.
Well, it is, and I look at it, when I see people coming into town and our streets are full, I'm a happy camper because that means we're talking sales tax, we're talking activities,
That's
our
right.
restaurants are happy, our businesses are happy. It's an environment that just is exciting, and I love it. So the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Can you touch on public transit a little bit? Is it smart, the public
smart
transit
bus.
system?
Yes, it is. The Starkville MSU area rapid transit, which I thought was so cool because then you got a university and it says smart. So, I mean, I just thought that was a wonderful play on words.
Pretty good.
When I was flying, I used to see BART and MARTA. And so when we started putting together what we were going to do this, I was on the kind of on the committee of how we were going to do this, and SMART just came up as being a great idea. So I still think it's cool.
That's pretty neat.
But MDOT participates obviously in that as well, just in terms of being able to coordinate that. But SMART's a wonderful addition to our community. It's very helpful. It's coordinated and managed through a super guy, Jeremiah Dumas, who actually used to be an alderman on the board of on the board for the city back in 2009 to 13. No, that's not right. 5 to 9, I guess, was his term. Well, anyway, 9 to 13, that's what it was. They all starting to blend together. Of course, I was the chief administrative officer at that time and not the mayor, so they kind of blend together. But we had Mayor Dan Camp, and then we had Parker Wiseman for two terms, and I think Jeremiah was in Parker's first term.
Okay.
But anyway, Jeremiah is the head of the transportation for MSU, and he's remarkable. He's really good to work with us, and we've worked with him on setting up bus stops and where those routes go, and we just contributed to their budget, which is, we've upped our ante to that. We started at $50,000. We now gave them $75,000 in this budget year. But it really is a huge benefit to our community because they serve a lot of low to moderate income areas, and it's a free ride. There's no payment that's associated with it. So it's just really a marvelous thing for our entire community. So I'm really, really pleased that he continues to do such a good job for us.
That's awesome. And public transit continues to kind of be at the forefront of the conversation, moving. These days it seems like it's come back up almost.
Well, you used to hear the whole business about empty buses, but the reality is it does serve a community, and it also adds to our economic development opportunities, because anytime you've got a business coming into town, they're going to want to know how their employees are going to get around.
That's
and
true.
so that's a big benefit.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Well, kind of keeping on the same line of thought, big events going on all the time in Starkville. This will actually be released on October 24th, so we're about 9 days out from when this recording will go live. But big events coming up, big events going on right now between now and kind of.
Oh, we always have big events. We're
Right.
trying our best to fill every weekend as far as I'm
Right.
concerned. Well, we've got Pumpkin Palooza. So you've got all the Halloween stuff going on.
yeah.
So we've got Pumpkin Palooza. We shut down Main Street, and you've got all the Halloweens and the candy and the spooks and the goblins and the ghosts.
That's
and
right.
all that sort of stuff that goes with it. Kids come out in droves.
Sure.
So we've just got that's that kind of thing. Then you've got a Christmas parade that comes up the whatever's the first Monday after Thanksgiving. You got Thanksgiving. I mean, it's just always something going on, and that's what we want to do. We want to have people in town. Then you've got, of course, all the home games, so I don't even have to talk about those.
Right, got a big one this
Yeah.
weekend, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
not here. They're in Kentucky.
Oh, it's at
They're
Kentucky.
Kentucky. It was
Yeah,
we
see.
had 3 in a row this past time, and we won them. Thank
That's
you very
right.
much. Not to brag about it or anything, but
Oh,
it's
you
really
should.
so
Absolutely.
cool so far. Like I have anything to do with it. Right? I just sit back and smile and go, yes, this is great. A winning season is a big deal for economic development. It's a big deal for people wanting to come into town, and that still remains the case. So, I'm very hopeful that all things will come our way as it relates to wins, and we can hold our head high and do it again next year. So, but we're struggling. I say struggling. We want to make sure that we keep people in town. So, one of the things we did was we have a sports tournament facility that's supposed to open next year, maybe March. And that hopefully will keep us busy on the weekends where we don't have ball games and the students are out of town. In the summers, we'll have baseball and softball tournaments and that sort of thing. So we're hoping for big draws. I know, that's one of the things that Mayor Tannehill up in Oxford, they've had, it was FNC Park. I'm not sure what they call it now, but they've got the big tournament facility up there. And so we went up there and learned from them what they had done because, we have a huge asset. Mississippi State has we got a College World Series baseball team, as does Ole Miss, and
right.
and we need to be able to capitalize on that asset. We want the kids to come here, play ball when they're kids, and look at being a Bulldog. So that's part of that thought process. So we want those folks to be here and come back every year, and come back in the summer and bring brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, and all of that. So we're trying to plan for the future.
Always stuff going on in Starkville.
Doing our
You
best.
You heard it here first.
Will, I'm going to tee you up. Let's do the
Oh, yeah.
question and
Yeah.
get out of here, man.
Okay.
So again, I mentioned this to you earlier. This is kind of one that's become a little bit of a fan favorite, so to speak. Mine and Paul's mother text us all the time and tell us how much they enjoy it. So if they're our number 1 and 2 fans, or maybe both number 1. Places to eat. Good Southern folks, we like to go eat. I know that you, being the mayor, I completely understand you may not want to give out a favorite per se, but maybe even somewhere out of Starkville or something that you don't get to stop by often. We're just looking for a food shout-out. Some good
Well, I'm
places
not going
to
to give you a
eat.
shout out outside of Starkville. I can just tell
fair.
you right now.
That's fair.
But we have such a large number of selections, and actually we got lots of new ones. We got old ones, old favorites. You got Little Dewey that you always hear about on the SEC network. And that's kind of the barbecue go-to. We've got Eat With Us group, which is Peppers and Bulldog Burger and Restaurant Tyler. Restaurant Tyler is the Eat Local, and that's Humble Taco and Restaurant Tyler. We've just got them everywhere.
That's all kinds of stuff.
It is, and it kind of depends on what you want. Walk-Ons just opened, so we're really excited about having them coming in. There's just lots of opportunities to eat and start. We got lots of Mexican, we got lots of chicken places, all over the place.
Love both of those.
Well, we do. It's just you want it, we got it somewhere around town. We got
Bulldog
it.
Burger has quickly become one of my favorite places.
I
to get a
had Bulldog
hamburger.
Burger earlier this week because I love a patio.
Man,
One of my goals is to have patios just about everywhere we go because I love al fresco dining. So.
That little outdoor kind of
Yep,
seating. Yep,
it's really
the
nice.
Same.
And in fact, that's why we're redoing Main Street is to set it up so that we've got more sidewalk space so we can restaurants can come, bring the dining
wow.
outside. So we've got a big Main Street project that we're doing that hopefully will be something you can see in the next 2 years as we start. You know, Athens did it, and you know, we kind of took a page out of their book as to how you make it a place where people want to be, and outdoor dining is part of it. So that's what we're doing.
That's very cool. I love that idea. I appreciate that. We got like 8 places to go check out today. Then.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
we're gonna go on a food tour right after this.
Well, good. You know, you can just kind of do like a passing through. You know, pick one and have a appetizer here and a meal there.
So
and
we're just gonna
dessert
get a
somewhere
meal
else.
each at each one, and then we can all take a bite of them. We'll split it up on the
There
way
you
back.
go. Yeah, we got, you know, and we've got new pizza places. We got a gelato place that's great. I mean, we really do. We've got some good stuff.
This might break over into a 2-day venture.
Well, there
here.
you go. Hey, do you like banana pudding?
Oh, absolutely.
There is a banana pudding gelato at this place down here by Humble Taco on University Drive. It's
Write this
Dulce,
down.
Dolce. They have grilled cheeses and banana pudding gelato, and it's pretty awesome. So.
I can't wait.
All right, we'll put them on the list then for sure. Well, I always enjoy visiting city halls, and this is a really cool one. Mayor Spruill, we really appreciate you letting us drop by and have a fun conversation with you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate y'all and everything that MDOT does. I mean, I really want y'all to come away with this knowing how much the city of Starkville appreciates MDOT and all that y'all have been able to help us do.
We appreciate that very much.
No doubt. So let's sign off from Stark Vegas. Thank you. I love that nickname.
I do
love
too.
that
It's
nickname.
one of my
It's
favorites.
great.
Fabulous Stark Vegas.
Fabulous Stark Vegas. So yeah, we just want to thank all of our listeners for tuning into the Extra Mile podcast. Remember, you can watch and listen to episodes by visiting gomdot.com/the extra mile. We want to thank our producer, Katie Hornsby, our editor, Drew Hall. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Mississippi DOT, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got it all. Well, that's about it. Thank you for joining us, and remember to drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.